Hey guys and gals, welcome to another episode, How to Sell Your Coaching with Wayne Sutton. I am here with just an amazing person when it comes to sales, persuasion, influence. I'm not one, guys, to give a long introduction other than take notes. Take notes. Now, I will say, Alicia, you go against the grain a little bit with some of my past guests, some of the people that, are doing sales today. And I love that about you. But you don't go against the grain just to go against the grain. You're actually bringing results. So I want to say thanks for jumping on board, Alicia, and being part of our community today.
Thank you so much for having me, Wayne. I'm so excited to talk through this with you.
Good. Awesome. We were talking one thing that I love more than anything probably, and it's really a toss-up, coaching and really consultant work and sales. They're both like my love language. And I believe they both come together very well. You can't always tell people selling is love. If you truly believe you're serving someone, you're showing love by taking their payment. By selling them a service or product, period. Yeah. But you have definitely, I know inside the circle of sales, some things that you teach that are a little bit different. Do you mind sharing what's a little bit about you and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a sales and marketing coach. I sold for corporate for about 10 years, and then I got tired of them not delivering on client promises, which is pretty typical for corporate. And I opened my own digital agency and really dove into the marketing world, but wasn't happy because I was working all the time. So now I do sales and marketing coaching, and they both play very well together and a lot of times are siloed out. And after getting into the online entrepreneur space, I found like this whole way of selling that was like very pain driven, like we were talking about before. And like silence driven and awkward and uncomfortable. And I'd never heard about that before. And if it works for you, keep doing it. That's my number one thing is look at the results. But a lot of people are doing it and not getting results and feel weird while they're doing it. So if you're not getting results, stop. Like they feel like I'm not implementing it correctly. It must be me. No, it's just that you need a different approach, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You said earlier, selling with hope instead of pain, and I love that. I think a lot of times people are trying to sell to the wrong audience. They're trying to sell the wrong product to the wrong audience. I never have a problem selling any of my daughters ice cream, cookies. I don't have to sell that because it's the right audience with the right product. Now, I know when we get into the corporate world or business world, we're trying to sell somebody something they may need, but they don't know they need it. Or maybe they're just resistant because every other salesperson before them were jerks and rude and pushy. And we got to overcome that. So selling with hope instead of pain. Do you mind taking a few minutes and sharing with us your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So in my experience, people buy more when they feel good than when they feel bad. So the whole pain thing is like really just dragging someone through the mud of their bad decisions up to this point and what their life's going to look like if they continue on in this kind of thing. And I think it's important to talk about where they've been and what they experienced and, what they wish was different about it, but also like what they liked about what happened. And then moving them to the other side. Well, let's not live in the fact that some bad decisions were made. They were learning experiences and now life's going to be fantastic. So it's going to be great. Like, this is what it's going to look like. So it's just not living there. Like, that's information you need to know just because you need to know what experience they had so you can position yourself as a different experience than that. But it's not, it's more about focusing on how great things are going to be now that we found each other, if it's a fit.
Absolutely love that. So when you sell with hope instead of pain, I always tell people there's no matter how great of a salesperson you are. I work with coaches and they're doing consultative selling. So we're listening to a person, see if we can help. But if you're on 5 sales calls and you sell 1, 2, or 3, that's great. But there's 3 or 2 or 4 you're not selling. And how do you feel when you get off the phone? And how did you leave that person? Did you leave that person with some hope? I believe in giving hope because I believe in the law of reciprocity. If I give hope to somebody, they love that feeling. I'm the one salesperson that made them feel good. Hey, I've had people call me back and go, "Hey, Wayne, I just keep thinking about what you said. Let's get started. Let's roll. Let's do this." Do you think there is a time for pain, or I'm just going to challenge you a
Yeah.
little bit a second?
Yeah. So, I mean, if they're really hesitant to move forward and they are a good fit, a lot of times there are cases where somebody's just really scared of doing anything. It can
Mm,
feel safer to do nothing, even though it's not safer to do nothing. That's the only thing that is a guarantee.
yeah.
You're guaranteed to be in exactly the same spot. So that's when I kind of use a little more pain. It's like, well, do you have an alternative plan?
Mm,
Like, what are you going to do if you don't do this?
yeah.
What is your life, in so many words, like, what is life going to look like if you don't do this? Because the thing that I don't want is for you to still be struggling. So it's kind of like being able to call someone out on the fact that they're making a choice to still continue on in this challenging situation, even though they want out of it. So
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look, so we're talking about selling from business to business or business to consumer, but if you look at something like a doctor, the doctor says, hey, you've got this condition, they may need to turn up the pain a little bit or show what other, if you don't take this, so if you don't have the surgery or you don't do this, if you don't change your health, habits, how's that going to look?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're going to start experiencing breathing issues and sleeping issues. And I just want to warn you what's coming.
That's right. So how is that going to look? It helps them paint a picture in their own mind of, hey, I need to do something a little bit different here. I was working with a client, and I could tell they were on the edge of saying yes. They were like, Wayne, I am so afraid. I know I need this coaching program. I know I need it, but I'm so scared. And what you said earlier, so how's it look? This phone call ends either A, we're onboarding you, and this is how that looks for our coaching, where you hang up and go, I got to keep looking. And you go back into the same process. Which option's better for you, to make a good decision or to keep looking? And so there was a little bit of pain there, but I still painted the hope of what it was going to look like to work with us. And I think that's where things are different.
Absolutely.
With your methodology, because I have, again, back to the pain selling model, I do believe in consultative, when I say consultative, really getting into the criteria, eliciting the criteria of what's important to them, why. And sometimes that'll bring up painful emotions.
Mm-hmm.
It really will. But then you've got to have a solution for that. If you bring up pain and don't offer a solution, you're a bad person. It's like having a movie. You watch this movie and you're waiting for this great ending. My wife's the first one at the end of the movie. She'll say, I just spent 2 hours of my life and that's how it ended. Why didn't they show this? She wants that happy ending.
Me too, man. I think there's enough pain. Everyone's like, but it's realistic. I'm like, I think that we all live in the real world. So there's enough of that not happy endings. Like, I just would like a happy ending always.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's good. That's good. I want to, I know while we're talking here, I wanted to share people real quick. They can get your information at your website, and I want them to be able to grab a hold of that. She's got a giveaway: immediately win more business, avoiding these 6 sneaky sales mistakes. So I love that. I went and checked it out, which is why we're on this interview today. So definitely check her out and find out more about that. So somebody comes to you with maybe no sales experience. They're just getting in sales and they have no clue what they're doing. Or somebody that comes to you with, like me, with decades of sales experience. How do you approach that different? Do you still kind of have the same formula you help people with, or how do you work with people and making sure they're getting the best out of their career?
Yeah. So I'm a very custom person. I'm all about having a sales process that fits your personality, product, and audience. So if it's somebody who's brand new to sales, they need to shift their mindset. What people don't realize is they're selling all the time. So the only reason that they sound different on a sales call is because there's an exchange of money happening, and they're usually scared of the rejection. Like this other person has a bunch of power over them or something, and like they need to like persuade them or convince them or something. And it's really about them convincing themselves. So like if you're going to sell your wife on something, you're going to sell her on what's in it for her, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about what's in it for you. And so many people just talk about themselves so much on a sales conversation, and then like nobody cares. They care about themselves. So I would start with like that, laying that basic foundation that they already have but don't even realize. And with somebody with decades of experience, you can really get into more advanced tweaking because it depends on what type of person you're talking to. Also, you got to be really, sales is about being agile, and you become agile when you've done it enough times that you can just like dodge and weave and take this direction and know when you hear certain cues to dig in there and that kind of thing that just comes with like having had that experience enough times.
Yeah.
That you're like, oh, I've been down this road. Let me get this off right here, you know?
Yeah, and I think that goes back to I love we're living in a COVID world at the time of this recording, and a lot of calls are now this Zoom. Now I love Zoom though because I can see that person. You can see when you're asking questions. You can see the body language. You have to learn body language. I think is extremely important in sales. I've worked with people that did not have a clue. They just kept pitching. And the person's moving further away. And then there's people that you naturally want to work with. And because they know how to listen, they do show empathy, they do care, and they still guide you towards the goal post. Very important. So you mentioned earlier, I think it was before we actually started recording, we were talking about having that empathy. How to explain what you mean by that?
So I have a little spin on it. It's authoritative empathy. Basically, people, when they feel understood, they feel like if you understand them, then you can help them.
Yeah.
So if they don't feel understood, there's not that same trust that you actually know what's going on in my situation. So I found since, really getting into this, a lot of people don't even know what empathy is, which kind of shocked me. It is not me too. It's not, oh, me too. Yeah, I did that too. Oh, I love that too. That is not empathy. That is a sales gimmick that feels gimmicky.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. So empathy is really like being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes and express what it would be like if you were in that situation. So like, oh, that would be really frustrating. I bet it would feel like, you just tried all the options and there was nothing left. So it's a little hopeless. Like you're able to expand and get some insight into it beyond just like parroting them back or saying me too.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because the parroting back is what a lot of people do. Or, hey, me too. Exactly. I understand how you feel. A lot of times you don't know how to feel, or they don't want you to know. They don't want you to be like one-upping them.
Right.
Oh, that was bad, Alicia. You should see what happened to me.
Right.
And you're right with that authority by asking the right questions. And I always tell people, the more questions you ask, the better. Yeah.
So the authority part is actually moving them past the empathy. So like you express that, and then it's like, it really ties into that hope thing. So it's like, I understand. I can imagine that would be really frustrating because you're paying all this money and this person isn't responding to you. And you're like, what am I paying for? Are they even doing anything? And they're like, yes, exactly. And then you're like, yeah, so that's why we focus on having one meeting a week to make sure that, we are up to date on all communication. So it's layering them together. It's like, moving them towards, I understand how it was. And like, that's why we are going to do it like this.
That's really great. Yeah. So showing them the other side, you're in hell. We're going to get you to heaven.
Yeah.
It really is. I was telling somebody this week too, and I'm sure you've run into this, that empathy, learning to ask the question first though, or learning to hear instead of just giving a benefit. Yeah. Sometimes we give a benefit or what we think is a benefit, and the other person's like, oh, I don't want that. Oh, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
And then or maybe you even brought up an objection you created because you assumed this is what they want. Instead of saying, that's a great point. Tell me more about that. Can you share more about this? Paint a picture about how that is working in your life. Because we try to, I have a solution, and maybe they don't even need a solution for that. They're just venting. Sometimes my wife, I'll say, are you venting right now, or do you want a solution?
Smart.
A husband or a coach, because I can be either one.
Yeah. That is like a main difference between men and women is they do just like venting. And sometimes that empathy is just all they want to hear. It's like, yeah, that sucks. It does, But on a sales call, it's like, I'm not here to just have you vent at me. We need to get to the other side.
The other side, sure.
Yeah.
And I think that it goes back to even people giving a price objection. I tell people the first time somebody objects to the price, it may not be an objection, could be a statement.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, your coaching is how much? That's really expensive. Instead of jumping in and trying to resell it, okay. And here's how, that is the price based on the value we're going to bring. And here's how that looks. Okay, they stated it. I think my new iPhone was expensive and stupid investment. But guess what? I was there the day it came out to get it. My car was expensive. But guess what? I love driving it. So just because something is expensive in their mind doesn't mean it's a no. Sometimes it's simply a statement.
I always like to ask, expensive compared to what?
According to what? That's very, yeah.
The reference point is often just very strange that they're using as a reference.
Yeah, I use that a lot too, and tell people, expensive is just a word. My wife thinks $6 a gallon for organic milk is fair. I think it's expensive.
Yeah.
My wife thought $8,200 to go to Disney was expensive. I thought it was fair. I thought it was expensive.
That sounds expensive, yeah.
It is expensive. She's wrong. But the point is, the price it's a number. But you're right. According to what? According to whom? And that's a great question.
A lot of times, they'll be comparing it to, for example, they'll say that your coaching is expensive, but college isn't.
Well, so I'm glad you said that. Can we jump on that? Sometimes a lot of our coaches are listening to this, salespeople sometimes learn to change the word. So I worked with a coach for a number of years, and she said, listen, quit calling it our enrollment fee or an investment. It's tuition.
Oh.
Changed it to tuition. Your 6-month tuition package is. And it immediately shifted to a educational mindset. Okay, college was $30,000 last semester. This is only $5,000. This is a great deal. So just a simple word like that.
I love that.
If you're providing educational value. So just a thought. So.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Sales is not a dirty word, guys. If you're just coming on board with us, Alicia Barr, I love this. I love talking about sales. I'm trying to keep this under 45 minutes because I could talk all day on. We're 17 minutes in, so we're good.
Okay.
But I really do love this. Now, one of the things we talked about earlier was, and I'm excited to hear your take on it, is how to avoid the friend zone.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. This is so common. So people, if you find yourself being like, oh, we had a great conversation, I'm sure that they're going to move forward. And then they ghost you or they say no or whatever. It happens all the time. It's usually because you guys had a great conversation that was mostly rapport. Y'all were just shooting the shit forever. Yep. You talked about your grandma and where she was from and what their favorite pancake is. And, you had so much in common and it was a fantastic conversation and they have no idea what you do and why they should work with you. Or maybe that was a really small part of the conversation. So you didn't uncover what their challenges are, what their goals are, what they've tried before and you didn't uncover the information necessary for articulating or communicating how you are a better solution comparatively. So you got friend zoned. I always say rapport should not last any longer than 5 minutes.
Say that again. Say that. That's worth stating.
Oh, I say rapport should not last longer than 5 minutes.
Okay, great. I knew this what you said, but I wanted somebody else to hear that because because when you build the rapport, then you need to get into what I call connection questions. We do want to connect, but connect with a purpose.
Yes. Not just because we're getting along.
Yeah. A number of years ago, I sold insurance and I would go and I had a friend that would go with me and he could open rapport and stay on rapport. But at the end, when they said, I love this insurance policy, but I just really can't afford it. He would go, oh, I understand. He felt bad for them. They were best friends, but we left without a policy. They left without coverage. And I finally said, hey, guys, you're doing great. I learned a lot from him. I really learned how to build rapport. But I said, when I opened the laptop, zip it. Let me jump in at this point because you really do need to connect beyond the rapport. Let me ask you, is there a rapport secret that you would give I want to come back to the friend zone, but is there a rapport secret that you would give somebody?
Yeah, I would say, please don't talk about the weather. God. Everybody's tired of talking about it. No one wants to hear about it. I really like to talk about things that are genuinely interesting. So to me, so a lot of people, salespeople.
Let's role play. Can we?
Sure.
Ring, ring. I'm calling. You got an appointment with me. I love having fun. This is we're going to share.
Okay.
Hello, this is Wayne.
Hi, Wayne.
Hi.
How are you? Wait, who's the seller? I'm the seller. You're the seller.
You'll be the seller. Yeah, you got to build rapport with me.
Okay. Hey, Wayne, how are you?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
Yeah. What time is it over there?
It's 4:16 right now.
Oh, you're
almost over.
Yeah, you're winding up the day.
Yes.
What do you got to look forward to tonight?
Oh, wow. So my mother-in-law's in, which is great. Love my mother-in-law. So I'm hoping that we're just going to have a good dinner and just enjoy some time with the family.
That's pretty lucky. Not a lot of people love their mother-in-laws.
No, most people don't. And I'm not just saying this because she might see this one day. I really do love her. So, but
you're both really lucky. I actually really like my mother-in-law too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really, I know people who don't have that situation, so I feel like very grateful for it.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to, respect your time. So
Love it. And see, I do it a little bit different. I don't talk about the weather. I totally agree with you because you automatically can place them into a negative mode.
Oh yeah, if it's bad weather.
Bad weather. Oh, it sucks here. You're calling Syracuse. It's been raining. Yeah. And where are you, Wayne? Oh, I'm at the beach. And I'm like, yeah, screw you, Something I've learned years and years ago, and I'm not saying this is the perfect rapport building, but I use it a lot, is just really jumping into, if I'm doing phone, now Zoom's a little bit different, but if I'm doing a phone call, the first thing I'll start with is, where do you live? Is that home? How'd you end up there? So, hey, I noticed your phone number is whatever. So where is it? I'm trying to guess. I'm out of guesses. I didn't Google you. Where are you located? Bam, they tell you. And then, oh, really? Is that home or did you move there?
Yeah.
I'm curious. I really am curious about different parts of the country.
Yeah. I like that conversation. I love travel too. So,
So where are you from, Alicia? I'm just curious.
I'm from Texas. So
what part? Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston?
I grew up in Houston and then I lived in Austin for a while. And then now I've moved to Denver from Austin.
Denver. Where's that? Is that geographical? I'm just curious.
Colorado.
Oh, I thought you were in Texas. Oh, I'm sorry. Denver, Colorado. So I'm like in Denver, Texas. Where's that?
I don't think so.
Oh, what made you move to Colorado? It had to be love or money. That's why everybody moves. Love or money.
The mountains.
So the love of the mountains. Awesome.
Yeah. Texas is real flat.
Yeah. I'm in North Carolina, so I get it. So that's really interesting. This is how I normally start a sales call. And people have said, what are you talking about? And I can tell, this is back to you've got to have that flexibility of behavior. If they're like, Denver, Colorado, who are you? They don't want it. They don't want a sales talk.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they don't want to talk about it. I like talking. I do like the location, and then it's fun to talk about like food a lot. Like, what'd you have for lunch? Like, what'd you have for dinner? If it's right after, or share something about yourself. I just got done running. It sucked. Do you run?
That's a great one. That's a great one too. And also in the business industry, I see that you're in the sales industry, Alicia. How long have you been in that? What got you into that industry? How long have you been into it? What you got into it? Because I learned a long time ago, people start a sales call with one or two emotions: resistance. What are you trying to sell me? Who are you? You're mean. Or happy. Hey, I'm a loner and I get to talk to somebody. Somewhere in between. So if we can get somebody talking, to hear their own voice is the most comfortable voice there is. So to have you asking, where are you from is a quick answer. Oh, how did you end up there? What took you there? Love or money? And get laughing. The more they talk, the more they go to at least a neutral spot.
Well, and it's more interesting for both of you because they're tired of having the same conversation too. So I always love to be able to learn something from the person I'm talking to. So like, you can take visual cues from Zoom too. Like a guy had an octopus in his background once, and then he told me all about how crazy octopuses are. And they're like, theory, they're aliens from another planet. And I mean, I was just like, blown away that there's all of this stuff they can change.
It happens to be my favorite animal. Well, I don't even know what you call it. It really is. Octopus is one of my favorites. So the same reasons. It's just they're unique. So We can talk about that now. You're right.
So there, or COVID is the time of shows. What shows you watch? And I'm looking for some new shows. I'm excited about watching this show. I just finished The Last Kingdom, so I don't know what I'm going to watch later tonight.
Me and my wife have thought about looking at it. We hadn't started it yet. So I'm being real. So this is a great conversation. And I think you're right, because now you have lowered resistance, built commonality. And then when you move into the sales, what was it, Alicia, that caught your attention or captured your curiosity that made you reach out today, or whatever your next pitch is, whatever your line into the presentation, I think that's real important. So now you've got me curious about Netflix. You got me thinking about food. I'm not going to run because I'm not a runner. So
I think it really sets the stage that we're just two people. I'm not like this gross salesperson trying to steal your money. I watch shows, I run, I eat, so do you. We're just two people.
So how do you take it from so that's a great point. And I totally agree, because I do the same thing. I want to start with where that was, the location, what brought you there, what kind of business, how'd you get in that business? And I'm listening. You're right, because the more they talk, the more you'll pick up on, oh, you like octopuses too. Oh, great. And so you're listening for that commonality. But then also, there's people that will cut you short. I will say 20% of them will cut you short. What have you got? What are you doing? And then I'm going to jump into what is it that caught your attention, made you curious, whatever. But another thing is using that's more of a peer-to-peer. We're people.
Mm-hmm.
But then there is a place where you move into that authority that, I teach it as the dominant peer of subordinate. And you've got to really move in the dominant to close the sale, or get them to convince themselves they want to work with you. So that's awesome. How to avoid the friend zone. I said I was going to circle back to that. I love you, Alicia. This is the best phone call I've ever been on. But I don't know what you're selling, but I'm really broke. I don't have any money. How do you get people out of the friend zone into that place of?
Well, if I'm really broken out of money, I'd be like, well, what inspired you to make the call today? What were you looking for?
You looking a friend, or you really want to change your life? Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a reason that you're in this situation? Are you trying to get out of this situation? What happened? What skills do you have? How can we? I really the mindset that I try to go to any sales call with is I'm excited to dig in and uncover what's going on. And if I can help, if it's something that I actually solve, then it just naturally happens. But most salespeople are looking for the first opportunity to jump and sell something, based on what they said. Kind of like you were saying, they assume oh, good, here's my spot. And they just are
premature presentations are embarrassing.
You don't know enough yet. You got to keep it in your mind for later, and maybe say a little bit about it. I'll get into more of that. Oh, that's great. That's something that we actually really take care of. I'll tell you about that more in a minute, though. What about this?
No, I love that. So, Alicia, that's a great point you brought up. I'm definitely going to address that in about 8 minutes. You just created an open loop. You're talking about Netflix. You're talking about shows. An open loop is what happened next. They open up a loop and then they go to another scene. I'll cover that in about the next 8 or 10 minutes. Unconsciously, they're going, okay, what's he going to say? And then you can move on. But one thing that's really, I literally have on my desk a note that says premature presentations, because it's so easy for a man, at least, to want to bring the solution. And so what I need to do is take notes instead and listen to early, and then go back to that. Hey, Alicia, earlier you said this, Will you paint me a picture around that? Can you share a little more? And that may go into pain. I know we're not trying to go pain, but we also may go into hope.
Well, if it starts in pain, you can always take pain to hope.
That's exactly right.
Talk about it a little bit. Of course, you're here because something's not going well. You're in pain.
That's right. That's right. And even I tell people that somebody said, well, if somebody goes buys a brand new sports car, they're not in pain. Yeah, they are. They don't have the intention they want. There's something they're not getting. Just give them the hope. Give them the car. Give them what they're looking for. So I think that's a good way to avoid the friend zone, is to move into. We're going to cover that, and then have that authority as you said, that authority to go and cover it and hit another point.
Well, and a good way to get out of rapport too is often like, I want to respect your time, or I could tell we could talk forever, but I want to respect your time. Like, so let's get into it. Let's see how I can help you. What's going on? Like what inspired you to reach out?
Yeah. And I think that's done with respect. I want to respect your time. And hey, listen, I could talk about this all day long. And so let's look at why you did call, or let's look at why we're talking together. And that's a difference than, I'll tell you one of the rudest I got. And so guys, if you're using this, stop. I got on a call with another coach that was going to help me in one area. And he said, he was very polite in the beginning, but he said, Wayne, here's how this call is going to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this, and at the end, I want a yes or a no, but not a maybe. And then he gave an analogy.
Yeah.
Like if you went outside, Wayne, and your car didn't start, you wouldn't wait to think about calling a tow truck driver. You would call the tow truck driver. So can you promise me a yes or no at the end of the call? And I said, actually, if my car didn't start, and I was messing with him, I said, man, if my car didn't start, you know what I would do? I'd jump in my wife's car or my other car. I mean, it wouldn't hold my day up like you're talking about. I actually may take time to decide which dealership's going to work at. I should have traded the car. I don't want a car that's going to break down on me. So no, I'm not going to give you a yes or no at the end of the call. I'm going to give you a polite no now.
Yeah.
You're not the kind of person I choose to work with. And he was like flabbergasted, cussed me out. I'm like, who that?
What?
I'm like, okay, no, you asked for it. I just saved me and you both 30 minutes.
I
don't choose to work with people like this. But it messed up his script. It messed up his little script. He was waiting for me to go, yes, I promise. So at the end, I could say, he said, oh, on, Wayne, you told me earlier. You got to blow through those kind of people. And if you're one of those people selling, shame on you. Change.
Well, he probably can't help it. Somebody gave him a script and said, this is what you have to do. And so he feels weird as hell doing it, but he's doing it anyway. And it probably is rubbing everybody else the wrong way. But he's like, this is what that person who sold 7 figures said to do.
Now, yeah, 7-figure script. To download my free 7-figure script, people buy the same script that everybody's changed 2 words on. And one of my former sales positions, I would start with, hey, I want to say thank you for jumping on the call. I'm going to share with you this, this, and this. At the end, I will ask you to make a decision. And that felt icky too. It really felt icky. I mean, what's the price, Wayne? We'll get to that later.
I just feel like obviously we all know you're going to ask for a decision at the end. So it's like this, they call it the pre-contract. The Sandler method way, where you're like, look, this is how it's going to go. I'm going to ask you some questions, and then you're going to ask me some questions, and then we're going to talk about whether we move forward. And if we don't, then I'll politely point you in the right direction or whatever. And it's like, hey, we've all been on a sales call. I feel like that's just like alerting a red flag in their mind that like, this is us. Now the sales call has begun.
Yeah. And I've actually heard trainers, not you, but other trainers that said, make that very clear. Okay, this is the presentation. This is how we're going to help you. And you're right. We're all adults. In fact, one of the things I've said, Alicia, that helps a lot is, listen, Alicia, we're both adults. Let's have an adult conversation. We'll lay all the BS aside. We'll lay all of the sales scripts aside. Can we just talk? And I've asked them, can we lay aside everything except how we can help you or not? And let's just have a conversation. And they're like, oh, I feel so relieved. And I still have an outline. I'm still have an outline of structure to lead to the sale. But if I can't help them, then we're going to have a conversation. And that's it. So,
yeah, I am all about frameworks. So you can't stick to a script exactly. And then also, if you're doing something that feels weird to you, it feels weird to your prospect.
Such as the give the price and shut up and say nothing else. The first one that speaks loses.
That always is so awkward. I never heard that until I was in this online space. And it's like, hello?
Yeah, you still there? You still there? So yeah, I don't do that at all. I give a price. Here's what our fee is, or here's what the tuition is, or whatever. And here's how it looks. And then I go into your onboarding call and I'm painting an image of our next step. And I go through and paint a small image of how it's going to look to work together. And then I may go back to, is there anything else you need to know? Or is this possibly something that could work for you? And I'm just very easy on that.
I like that format. I also like to just say, like, do you have access to those funds? Like, I want to have a conversation. They're having a conversation in their head, and I want to be part of that conversation. So if it's like, well, yeah, but maybe I'd have to move it from. Well, let's talk it through. What else are you doing? Like, what else are you spending on? Like that.
No, that's really good. So I've had that, especially when you get into higher ticket, $5, $8, $20,000 programs. Oh, wow, I really did not expect it to be that much. Oh, wow, I really don't have those funds available. Great. One of the things about being a coach is being resourceful. Let's be resourceful. So let's lay aside, and I've even said before, let's lay aside the money. Okay, it's $20,000, Alicia. Let's lay that aside for a moment, and let's focus in on how we can get you started. The money will take care of itself. Have you ever had something have you ever had something in the past that you didn't know how it was going to handle and it just took care of itself? Yeah, the money will take care of itself. Now, that could be a home equity loan. It maybe lendingtree.com, or let's try to find the funds.
Or
later.
Financing too.
Friends.
Yeah.
Good friends or not. But
it reminds me of like one of the other things I really hate that people do is they say before they'll tell you the price, they'll be like, before I tell you the price, is there any reason that you would not move forward with this if price was not an object? And it's like, that's so see-through. They just say like whatever to get, because they need to learn the price.
Yes. I'm really, if somebody asks me the price up front, it kind of goes on my mood and my mode that day. They ask me for the price up front. A lot of times I'll give it to them. If I know, and sometimes consultative selling, we may have different programs. If I know, hey, you were on the phone about this is the price, I'll say, listen, let's handle that up front. So, because I've been where you're at, Alicia, sitting on these calls going, what's it going to cost? What's it going to cost?
Right.
We can go ahead and handle that up front. Then we can focus on how we can help you. Does that sound fair? Boom. Here's the price. Or I will say, I'll promise you we're going to cover the financing, the price, the tuition, whatever. In just a moment. Can I ask you a few questions first?
Yeah.
And listen.
Usually the direction I go is like, well, I really want to make sure it's a fit first. I'm definitely going to cover investment, but I just need to know a couple things. That's
right. Yeah. I was on a call the other day with a gentleman. He said, do you have any questions before we get started? And I said, yeah, what's the price? I'm kind of sold on you. I saw your webinar. I kind of sold. What's the price? And he said, it's $5,800 and you can do that in one payment or two payments of $3,000. Now, do you need more questions, or should we move forward and let's look at your business? I'm like, I like that.
Yeah. I like that confidence of it. It's just like, hey,
confidence. Yeah.
The truth is, if like you can't afford it, then we shouldn't have this conversation. So
that is the truth. And also, I think it also kind of goes back to the warm up before the call. If you cold call somebody and somebody's cold calling, they're, well, who is this? How much is it? $5,800. Oh, you're crazy.
Right.
But if they followed you for 2 years, they're listening to your podcast, they really love you, like, I'll find the money. How do we make it work?
Yeah.
I think it's going back to, you mentioned movies. As an old movie, I'm going to date myself here, The Saint with Val Kilmer and Elizabeth Shue. That's who I
remember that movie.
I remember her in that movie. But one thing I really picked up from him was flexibility of behavior. And that really was, he could become who he needed to become, but he did it based upon the current mode of the person in front of him.
That's what a really good salesperson does, is they are able to pick up on what's important to the other person and what their intention is. So if they're just trying to call to get the price as a cold call, yeah, but like my friend the other day, she called somebody about a program and she was like, hey, man, I know you probably got a script, but I'm pretty much sold on this thing and I just got a couple questions. And he wouldn't let her. He had to walk her through the whole thing. And like, if somebody said that to me, I would be like, okay. But if they were like not saying, I'm pretty much sold on this and I have a few questions, if they would just straight out were like, I just signed up for this thing, what's the price? I'd be like, oh, well, that's crappy.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that goes back to, I know most of our people on here are coaches, consultants. Have your pregame worked up. As much as you can. Some people are still going to get on the phone and not have a clue who you are, or you're going to meet them face to face. When I used to sell insurance, most of it was lead generated, and then I went and met them. But I also knocked on doors. I mean, I did it all. It was,
wow, that is the best sales training.
The very best is knock on the door, and if you don't get mugged, solicited, or shot, you'll become a great salesperson.
Wait, what was the weirdest thing that ever happened to you when someone answered the door?
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I love these stories.
So there's two things that have happened. One was A gentleman walked in, literally with a pistol in his hand, and he said, "Get the F off of my lawn." And I'm like, "Yes, sir. My apologies." And I didn't tell him who I was. Here's my business card. I left. It was a little shady of an area, and I knew that. The second weirdest thing was I was in an apartment complex. Knocked on the door, and the lady came to the door. We used lady as just giving her the benefit of the doubt. She was definitely a female. I don't think there was any lady-like about her. But she comes to the door. She had clothes on, but barely. And I'm like, "Hey, I'm with the Sutton group. Here's my business card, blah, blah, blah." And she's like, "Yeah, come on in." I'm like, I was just going to let you see if you needed anything. And she was like, "Are you really here for that? Or are you here for something else?"
Whoa!
Like, I really think she was a prostitute that thought I was.
Oh, you think that was her?
I must have did the secret knock or something. I don't know. But it was like, "Oh, you," and I'm like, no. Now, inside the home, not that house, I did not go in, but inside the home on other situations, I was almost mugged once.
Wow.
Yeah, I was almost robbed, and I had to, they asked me, said, "Why do you think you're going to get out of this house without us taking what's in that briefcase?" And it was three of them. There was one of me, and I had no weapon on me, but I was like, "Let me share with you why." And the whole back to flexibility behavior, I had to really stand my ground and prayerfully get out. So I'm praying and being tough at the same time. But I got out. And then the other time
I have no idea how to deal with that one. I think it's just like, because you guys aren't bad people.
Yeah, because you're so nice.
Yeah.
And it's just a different, it's a different world when you do door-to-door sales. It really is. But it does teach you. It does teach you.
They're the weirdest people. Like, I used to work with auto dealers, and I feel like I can handle any strange situation now. They are the weirdest clients. They will scream.
So the auto dealer itself was weird, or because I was in that industry for 13 years. I can agree with you.
The general manager.
Oh yeah.
That's
I'm probably gonna make one or two mad if they hear this, but they're the most ego-driven.
They'll scream at you. They'll say the weirdest stuff because they know they can get away with it because you're trying to get them to buy something. So they like almost want to make you feel uncomfortable. Like, they will make you wait for like way beyond your dignity, just waiting out there even though you had a meeting. I had one try to tell me like what I could eat at our lunch, like what I could order and stuff. And I was like, no.
Yeah. So I had one of the general managers. I said, "Why do you make what you just said?" I said, "Why do you make them wait?" He said, "It's called posturing." I said, "I understand posturing, but that's not posturing. You're belittling them and you're wasting their time and your time. Get them in, find out what they have, and help them." Yeah. Here's why I think, though, Alicia, most of the car industry, sales is a dirty word because they have learned from some of the worst.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Joe Girard. Everybody, "Oh, he's the best salesman in the world." Read his book. His book says he would lie to customers, he'd give the script of how to lie to them.
Oh my God.
And Joe Girard was one of the worst. I don't care how many cars.
Terrible.
And some of the greats, even of their time, the Tom Hopkins and the Brian Tracy's, in their time, they gave good techniques, but that era is over. And people are in a post-trust era. They really want to know. They are going to move on emotions. They're going to do their own homework before they ever meet you in most cases.
You bring up something that I have talked about quite a bit lately, that there are different levels of awareness. It's something that comes up a lot in marketing. So when people are already used to one way of positioning things, then it's not interesting anymore, right? So you have to find another, like they're savvy. They're savvier. Buyers are savvier now. So
Yeah.
Like the 80s was definitely ABC, always be closing. It's not like that anymore. And then there was like the era of spin selling when it was like, oh, if you get somebody to say yes enough times, they'll say yes at the end or whatever. And people just become savvy to those things.
They become savvy to the techniques. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's, again, you need to look at if something's working for you, great, but could you do better? Could you bring in a new way where you are truly serving and feel better about it? And also just be a student of sales, I think is very important. I would definitely say to go to aliciabarr.com, check her out, but become a student of sales. When I first started selling, and I sold throughout my teenage years, but when I first sales job was at a Toyota dealership. And luckily I had a great mentor that was helping me, but I bought book after book after book. And one of the books I still have. This is funny. I got to show this book. Now, everybody can go there and buy this book. This stuff's outdated. Don't use it, please. But I keep it here almost as a reference point. And it was Unlimited Selling Power. How to Master Hypnotic Selling Skills.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, but for a 20-year-old, it's like, yes, I'll learn all the secrets.
Yeah.
But the problem is that worked 20 plus years ago. Today, you really need to learn how to build that rapport and how to give somebody hope, because we live in a hopeless world. And that is very
well, in a world where we've all been screwed over. So, I mean, people have been burned before. So being able to have the empathy for them and then be able to communicate how they're not going to have that experience in a genuine way, as long as you're coming from a genuinely helpful place, nobody minds what you're asking and getting to. You just want to help somebody.
It's true. It's true. So selling is not a dirty word. I love it. I think selling is, I've said it before, selling is love. If you really care about somebody, you want to bring them the best, period. I'll have to sell my daughters on taking their vitamins. I have to sell, we're always persuading people. And one of the ways we do it sometimes is questions. And I think questions, which is something we didn't dig into. We're going to do another call because I really want to get into some of the questions.
All about those questions. Yeah, that's how you get them to sell themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If somebody sells themselves, if their own idea, if it's their own idea, they cannot negate it easily. So how do you get them to sell themselves? By asking the right questions where they have that aha, that epiphany moment.
Exactly.
You understand me, Alicia. And if you understand me, you must have the solution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've enjoyed this. I really have. Any parting thoughts? Obviously, if people want to pick up the 6 sneaky sales mistakes, then they need to jump over to your website. But is there any other thoughts you'd like to leave?
I mean, I am launching my course finally in January, The Secret Art of Subtle Selling. I mean, parting thoughts, I would just say, a lot of people have had an experience with a bad salesperson, so they go 180 in the opposite direction. And they don't do themselves justice. They are like under embellishing themselves if possible. And you're not doing anybody any favors. If you really care about the delivery on the back end, then you're doing them a disservice, because they're going to be sold by someone who's better at sales and worse at delivery.
That's very, very good point. Awesome point. That's amazing. Alicia, thank you for being on. I really appreciate it more than you know. This has been great. Probably a year now I've been following you on Facebook. And I'm like, I got to get her on the show. For our coaches, consultants, course creators, everybody that wants to learn how to make a lot of money, helping a lot of people, our Wealthy Coach 2.0 case study is coming out. And so we are now in the one for December. We have another one coming out January 1. We're going to take 10 people, get them to 6 figures as quick as possible, and help scale from there. If you want to know more about that, then jump over to howtosellcoaching.com. If you are not a coach, but you want to learn more about client attraction, then you can also jump over and get on a phone call with me. We'll do a free coaching session. And it is truly a coaching session. Yes, I want to ask you some questions. Yes, I want to ask you where you live. We're going to have some rapport building, but we're really going to get to know you and see if we can help you. Just a phone call. Again, no pressure. Callwithwayne.com, and we'll schedule that. Alicia, thank you again. And all of our audience, hit the share button. Alicia needs somebody else to see this message. Appreciate it.